Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today's video is an update on my 1 month 1 palette series. So I'm going to be sharing an update on my October palette, which was the Bili Beauty Eyes of India palette. I'm going to show some looks that I created with it, some progress photos, and then I'll be introducing my November palette. I did have you guys vote on my YouTube community tab for my November palette, and let's just say it was a very close race. So we're going to talk about that in a little while. But first, let's go over how I used the Bili Beauty Eyes of India this month. I'm going to share some of my favorite looks that I created right here, and then at the end of the video, I'll do a kind of montage of a bunch of looks that I created along with which shades I used for each one. I had so much fun with this palette in October. It's just such a beautiful palette. I was able to play around with some bright pops of color. I also got really into warm goldeny orange eye looks this month, which I think is perfect for this time of year, but it kind of got me back into a warm toned eyeshadow phase. At the start of the month, my goal was to use each shade 5 times, which I did meet. Some of them I barely met that goal. Others I far exceeded that goal. I didn't set a goal to hit pan on any of the shadows just because I didn't feel like I was really that close to hitting pan on any of them. And I also have no idea how deep these pans are. So I didn't end up hitting any pans, but I do have a pretty significant dip in the gold shade Sona. So I don't know, I feel like I could probably hit pan on that shade soon if I keep working on it. The shade I used the most was the shade Taj Mahal, which is that pearly white shade, and I mainly just used that as my inner corner highlight. I used that one 13 times. The shades that I struggled to use the full 5 times were the purple, blue, and green. I actually finally used the purple and blue for the 5th time today, so we were cutting it close on those, but I did finally meet that goal. And I'd have to say my least favorite shade in the palette, the one that I had to really push myself to use, was the purple. It's not my favorite color to wear on my eyes. Actually, like I said, I'm wearing that on my eyes today. For today's look, in case you're wondering, I'll go ahead and share what I did here, but I used the transition shade from the Wet n Wild Walking on Eggshells quad in my crease, just because that is in my project pan, and there's not a light transition shade for my skin tone in here, so I ended up using that for a lot of the looks that I did this month. But I did that, then I applied the purple on kind of the outer half of my lid with a wet brush. Then I applied the gold on the inner half of my lid. And then I used the blue kind of all across my lower lash line. I mixed a little bit of the black on the outer part of my lower lash line just to deepen it up a little bit. I felt like the blue kind of didn't quite go with the purple and gold, but I was just trying to use that shade one more time. And then I, of course, used Taj Mahal on my inner corner. That's usually my go-to with this palette for that shade. Yeah, it's really not a look that I would normally create for myself, but I was just trying to get one more use out of that purple shade, and I actually kind of like it. So that's today's look. I'll go ahead and share a few of my favorite looks that I did. The first look that I did this month was probably one of my favorites. I was wearing it in my beauty budget update, but I did a combination of the orange, the brown, and a little bit of ColourPop Wake Up Call, which is this kind of mid-toned beige color in my crease. Then I applied the green on the inner half of my lid, the blue on the outer half, and then a little bit of the gold on my inner corner. Another one of my favorite looks was a very warm orangey gold kind of look that I did. I started out the look with ColourPop Paper Tiger in my crease, and I found that I really love this shadow with this palette. It's beautiful. Then I applied some of this orangey shade in my crease, deepened up the outer corner in the crease a bit with this deeper reddish rusty color. I applied the gold all over my lid and the brown to deepen up the outer corner, and then as a winged liner on the top as well as a lower liner, and then I did Taj Mahal in my inner corner. That was a very simple kind of neutral fall kind of look, but it definitely is one of my favorite ways to use this palette, and I loved the addition of the Paper Tiger shade. I don't always use this, sometimes I'll just use the mattes in here, but I liked that for an even more like mustardy kind of crease. I also did a kind of colorful pink and purple look, which was really fun. I used Tamara, this magenta pink color, on the majority of my lid. Then I used the purple in like my outer third, did a combination of the orange and the brown in my crease, then a combination of this deeper red and the brown on my lower lash line, and Taj Mahal again in the inner corner. That was a really fun look, and I love how different that look is than a lot of the other looks that I did. It's just amazing to me how many different color combinations there are with this palette. You can do a really pinky purple look like that one. You could do something super orangey and bronze. There's just a lot of different types of looks that I was able to come up with here. Another look I had a lot of fun with was one where I combined the Eyes of India palette with the Urban Decay Stone Vibes palette. This was a ton of fun. For this one, I used the shade Antidote from Stone Vibes to start out my crease. And I basically used the blue shade in here, Mile, all over my lid as a base. Then I applied some of this light kind of iridescent bluish silver color Opal Aura on the inner third of my lid, and then the deeper blue Oho on the outer 2/3. And then I used some of Hexed here to deepen up my crease. And then back to the Bili Beauty palette, I used Taj Mahal in my inner corner, and then a combination of the purple and the green on my lower lash line. So lots of different colors, mainly blue, but then I threw in a purple and a green because I was, again, trying to use those shades some more. So quite a colorful look. I thought that was really, really pretty, and it made me want to pair these two palettes more often. That was the only time I used them together this month, but they make a really great combo. So those are my favorite looks that I just wanted to highlight here. I documented a total of 15 looks in my notebook here, and at the end of the video, like I said, I'll put the rest of the looks in kind of a photo montage, and I'll type out which shades I used so you can see all the looks that I did. So now that we've recapped this lovely palette, I'm a little sad to move on from it. A few days ago, I wanted to put up the poll ahead of time because I wanted to give you guys as much time to vote for your favorite as possible. So I put this poll up like 5 days ago, but I asked you guys which of 4 palettes you wanted me to use for my November 1 Month 1 palette. And the options were Anastasia Modern Renaissance, Urban Decay Naked Reloaded, The Balm Nude Dude, and e.l.f. Opposites Attract. And the results have been so close the entire time. They've all hovered around 25%, which out of 4, that's pretty much an equal split across all 4. And as of today, we are at 26% for Modern Renaissance, 26% for Urban Decay Naked Reloaded, and then 24% for The Balm Nude Dude, and 24% for e.l.f. Opposites Attract. So it's so funny because for the longest time, Modern Renaissance was ahead of Urban Decay Naked Reloaded by 1 percentage point. I think this one had 27% and this one had 26%. And so I was almost certain that this one would win, even by a tiny margin, until I checked this morning, and I was so surprised to see that they were actually tied for the first time since the poll started. So here's the deal. With Modern Renaissance, I've had this palette for about 3 years now. I have hit pan on 3 of the shades. It is one of my oldest palettes, and I definitely do want to start seeing more progress on it. With Naked Reloaded, this is actually one of the newest palettes to my collection. I've barely even used it, and so I do, of course, want to get some more experience with this palette so I can share my thoughts on it. So these are our 2 contenders, and I know a lot of people are apparently really tired of hearing about Modern Renaissance. I know it's been around for a while. I know it's been hyped up and just talked about to death on YouTube, and a lot of people were like, you know, I want to see more looks with this palette because I'm trying to pan it. You know, I have that palette and I need some inspiration. And then a lot of people were like, I hate this palette, I'm so tired of hearing about it, please don't pick this one. And I do understand that. Now, keep in mind, the purpose of this 1 Month 1 palette series for me is to rotate through all of my eyeshadow palettes and to be able to start seeing more progress, especially on my older palettes. And so eventually, I'm hoping to get around to all of my palettes in this series. So this palette is eventually going to be put in the series regardless. So I know if this one gets picked, people are going to be disappointed, but just keep in mind it's just for a month, and then all 4 of the palettes that you guys voted on this month will eventually be part of this series. So don't fret. It's not like we're only using this palette for like a year. All right, so here's the deal. Modern Renaissance is a very fall palette to me. I really like using this in the fall. That's when I feel the most inspired to use it. And we are running out of fall months. To me, November is kind of like the last month of real fall. I also think this could make a great February palette. I know some people don't really try to match up their makeup with the seasons. I personally love doing that. That's why I am kind of leaning towards Modern Renaissance, because I feel like it's either this month or February that we pick this one. But I also kind of have a different palette in mind for February, and that one would be the Profusion Mauves palette. That one's like strictly red and pink. I think that would be really pretty. But that's why I kind of want to go with Modern Renaissance. But then again, I also really want to test out Naked Reloaded some more. So what we're going to do is a coin toss, not really, we're just gonna use a random number generator. So let's say Modern Renaissance is gonna be 1, Naked Reloaded is gonna be 2, and we'll just see which one wins fair and square, because I kind of know which one I want, but you guys voted, they were tied, so we're gonna leave it up to the Pretty Random app. So I'm doing minimum of 1, maximum of 2, and we're gonna do it right here on camera. And 2 is the winner, and that's Naked Reloaded. So looks like this is gonna be our palette for November. That'll be fun though. I guess we will do Modern Renaissance another month. Those of you guys who hate this palette and can't stand to see it anymore, I'm sure you're breathing a sigh of relief right now, but yeah, so I'm excited though. I gotta say, you know, like I said, I kind of was hoping Modern Renaissance would win, but I also would love to get some more use out of this palette so I can kind of figure out my thoughts on it. And I do think that this is a very fall appropriate palette. And you know what, I can still pair it with Modern Renaissance. I think these would make a really pretty pair. And that way I can still kind of try to get some more use out of this palette, since I do enjoy using it in the fall. If you have Naked Reloaded, let me know your favorite ways to use it. I honestly feel like I hardly know this palette at all because I've only used it like I think once so far. So obviously since this is so new, I don't think I'll be hitting pan on any of the shades unless for some reason these pans are just super shallow, but I kind of doubt that'll happen. There are 12 shades in this palette, and I like to set a goal for how many times I want to use each shade. Since this is not the biggest palette ever, I'm going to set the goal to use each shade 5 times. It will be tricky, I think, because it is 12 shades, whereas the Bili Beauty palette was 10 shades. So that one's a little easier to get around to all the shades. But I don't think this will be too much harder. It's a lot of neutral shades, a lot of shades that go really well together. So I don't think that should be too hard. So yay, I'm excited to get some more use out of this palette, and I'll be able to actually formally review this probably in my next speed reviews video once I really get some good use out of it.